My wonderful viewers, I welcome you to UmseekaTV. It's your host, Aja Ejipoma, and today I have in my studio Kenneth Bruni. Ken, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Aja.
Hope you're good.
I'm doing well. And how about you?
I'm blessed. Ken, our topic for today is what are some of the qualities you will consider in choosing a life partner? But before I would want to know your take on that, I would first want to read something. It says, a perfect marriage is just two imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other. So then tell me, what are some of the qualities you would want to look for before getting married?
All right. Thank you very much. I think this is an interesting question. Trust me. And my preferences may differ from a lot of other people. And I think from my standpoint of view, okay, in terms of me being a man, it will definitely be different from a woman.
Okay.
I think if you sample 10 different men of my age and ask the same question, the answers you get will be very interesting. Now, in that light, if you had asked me this same question about 5 years ago, the answers I would have given you would have been different from what I would give you 3 years ago, or maybe as recent as last week and even now. And that's simply because maybe my thoughts and ideas about certain things change along the line. But I think I do have some answers to give today, as in the things I'll be looking out for. And as we go on, I'll explain further.
Oh, okay, thank you. So Ken, I want you to give me 3 important qualities you would want to look for in a woman before getting married to her.
Okay. Honestly, 3 may not be enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to be honest, 3 may not be enough. But sometimes you cannot also get everything you want in one person. I think some compromises needs to be made. So I'll put them in categories. I think first of all, there should be that spiritual connection. Okay. So for instance, I would prefer somebody who is morally sound. Okay. Now there's a difference between the spirituality aspect of a human being and the moral aspect of a human being. I think the spirituality is derived from the religious belief of that person. So for instance, if somebody is a Muslim, what a person believes in, if somebody is a Christian, and even in Christianity, there are a wide variety of denominations within the Christian faith. Good. So the morality cuts across, okay, because what is good and what is bad, and that's what morality teaches us. So definitely that person should be morally upright, okay. Then secondly, I also want to have somebody who thinks at the same wavelength as I do, because at the end of the day, our coming together as husband and wife is going to raise a family. So you would expect children within the mix. So the question is, how do you raise up children in a family? If the woman thinks this is right and that's not in sync to what I think in terms of raising children, then it becomes a little bit of a problem. And you find a lot of families having that issue. So the level of thinking should be in sync, okay? So there's some level of intellectual synchronization that needs to be done. Okay, that may sound like a very fancy word, but trust me, it is very important. Imagine somebody who is so much educated and educationally inclined, okay, having married somebody who may not be so much interested in education. It's not as if the person does not want to be educated, but there are people who are not so much interested in. So for instance, once maybe they get to a certain level as far as education is concerned, they may not want to progress, even if given the opportunity. So that should be checked. So somebody who is on that same educational wavelength with me is very important. Then I think we cannot also underscore the importance of communication and other physical features that may come to play as far as attraction is concerned. So those are the things. So let me go over again. I think the first thing I made mention of was morality, which is a very technical word. Okay, so not too much of spirituality, but morality. Then the intellectual level should be in sync. Then the third one will be communication and some physical features of a human being that definitely excites me as a human being. Those are the things I'll be looking out for.
Okay, so do you think both the husband or the wife to be, should they have the same Christian background?
Okay, so remember I said morality and not spirituality, because the conversation of spirituality would then bring religion, but morality does not matter. What is morally upright in Christianity could be morally upright in Islam or any other religion you may think of, okay? Because the fundamental, I mean, when you look at the Abrahamic religions, okay, all the religions that brought their source from our grandfather Abraham, we seem to have some common basis for our connection with our Maker. Okay, so regardless of the particular religion you find yourself in, if you're a Christian, you know stealing is bad. It doesn't matter if you're a Muslim. If you're a Muslim, to stealing is bad. So when it comes to that connection, it is important. But I made mention of morality. Okay, morality, and that's where the line needs to be drawn. So yes, if there are different or people coming together from different religious background, there could be some level of friction because our forefathers didn't agree. That's why you have those different religions. Is that okay? So if definitely you find yourself from a different religious background as your partner, it is definitely going to cause some friction. It can work, but in some cases there should be some friction that you should be well aware of in order to compromise and try and iron things out whenever they do okay.
But do you know that it's going to bring a lot of conflict in the marriage? Because of our church doctrine. You have your own church doctrine, I have mine. So I don't think, to my opinion, I don't think it would be advisable for a young man or a young lady to get married to somebody who doesn't have the same church doctrine.
I found myself in a family where my mother, even though we are all Christians, but then my mother attends a different church from my father and me as well. So the three of us, we are in different faith, but we are all Christians. And that hasn't necessarily brought any conflict or friction between how the family gels, because at the end of the day we understand and respect each other's belief. Okay, but then if it is, let's say, Christianity versus another religion, then it becomes a little bit of a problem. But then I've seen people, Muslim Christians, getting married and working it out. The most important thing is you should know what is ahead of you in order for you to plan and know the challenges you have moving on. But nobody should sweep such things under the carpet. They are very critical. Even two Christians of different doctrines becomes quite difficult, not alone people from different religious backgrounds. So it is very important, and that's why you said, or back to the question, the things you should look out for. Yes, you should look out for that. If you truly like somebody and you think you can compromise on those grounds, then you should know that it is going to be a lifelong thing. You are going to work at it every day. So it is very important people take note of that. Now, the other things I mentioned were the intellectual wavelength, okay, that the man and the woman should have that synchronization, okay. So you find a lot of people who have a little bit of inferiority complex because they don't feel they belong to even the company of their spouses simply because they feel their spouse is a little bit more educated than them, or a little bit more exposed than them, or in a certain way or form quite superior than them, which in my view could be a little bit of a problem. So if you know we are well educated, you find somebody who is not to your level, regardless of anything, I think the first conversation that needs to be had is, are you interested in also climbing up to that level? If the answer is yes, then you should find means and ways, strategize, and see how best you can help each other achieve that. If the answer is no, then you should know that, okay, will you be able to deal with this person who is not willing to, for instance, maybe go back to school and get a degree or do something for herself or for himself. So I know somebody, okay, a female friend of mine who is well educated, happens to work with a very good government institution, and she was dating, because eventually it became a big issue between the person she was with. She was dating somebody who was not as educated as her, and the unfortunate thing was the lady was not even interested in telling the man that I want you to educate yourself to my level. The lady was just having conversations about, oh, okay, I see myself going back to school to go and do my master's, furthering my education. And the man was like, why are you thinking about education? So there was a friction there, okay? And a lot of people, I believe, don't take that into consideration when choosing a life partner, which can be very dangerous, because where you see yourself or how you want to project yourself in life should never be limited by the fact that you are married to somebody. You should always strive to achieve more. If, for instance, you see yourself, I'm using education because the question was more or less directed towards me, so I'm using my life experience, but then it could be any other thing relatable to education. So, for instance, if that person is a businessman, okay, probably little to do with education, doing some petty trading, and that person sees herself that, okay, in the near future I want to expand, I want to do import and export, and here you are with somebody who is not thinking at that same level with you, then it becomes a problem. So whichever ambitions you have in life, in my case is education, in whoever case could be any other thing, should be in sync with whoever you are going to form that partnership with. And the last thing I spoke about was communication and some level of physical attraction. I said before that it may sound trivial, but it is very important, because, I mean, come to think of it, you are going to live with somebody for the rest of your life, and here you are, there's no way you cannot go a day without not communicating, okay? And I'm not even talking about talking, because there's a wide difference, or there's a vast difference between communication and just talking or having an argument or personal statement to each other. Because people who have studied communication will tell you that in any communication cycle, okay, there are two or more parties, okay? So there's a sender and there's a receiver. Now the sender will send a message that needs to be decoded, okay, by the receiver, for the receiver to give a response. Now, if you are communicating with somebody in a relationship, whichever message I convey to that potential partner should be decoded. That means it should be understood, and I should also get a feedback. Okay, this is what you told me, and this is what I also think about it, and this is how I feel we should go about it. Okay, it shouldn't always be, I'm saying this, so understand me. So that level of communication, okay, should be there. And last but not the least, which I'm attaching to communication, should be that physical attraction, because clearly we're all human beings, okay? We're all human beings. I mean, once upon a time in the Bible, angels saw beautiful women and fell. Okay, people who were living with God for all their lives saw beautiful women and fell. So definitely, as human beings, you will definitely see beautiful ladies. Okay, as a man, I'll see a beautiful lady and maybe I'll fall in love. But the point is, that physical attraction needs to be there. Okay, and that will vary from every man to one another. Some people may like women who are X plus in terms of, body size. People may want it slim. Others may want short women, tall women, and even complexion. Others like it fair, dark. So it depends on the individual, but I think that's also something very important, because whoever person you see yourself as a life partner should be somebody you are physically attracted to.
Okay, Ken, thank you. Okay, you said earlier on that you would want somebody who has the same or almost the same level of education with you. Don't you think love conquers everything? If I've been to school and he has not been to school, I love him, I can still be with him.
Yes, it's true. Love conquers everything. But you see, in marriage, we shouldn't overcomplicate love. Okay, we shouldn't overcomplicate the meaning of love. Okay, if you truly love somebody, and that person is not on that intellectual level with you, it becomes very difficult even communicating or even trying to think about things, building a family. It becomes very difficult. Okay, now I made an emphatic statement that in my case, it may be the educational level. That's not to say I, for instance, have a degree, so my woman should have it. If she has more than me, excellent. If I have more than her, no problem. The most important thing is she should be somebody who is open to having a conversation that, oh, do you think this will help you? Why don't you do this? Like I said, there are people who may not even want to have that conversation at all, simply because they are content with what they have and they feel it is not necessary. No, it should be necessary, because it is necessary to me. Because once again, like I said, we are raising children, okay, and I don't want my children, especially if my level of education is higher than my wife, I don't want my female children or my girls to be thinking that should be the norm. That shouldn't be the norm. They should see their mother also rising up, challenging their father, okay, in that positive sense, that, okay, it is possible for a man to get to this level, and for instance, a woman to even get above that level, and for the man to, like, that should be up and going, so that whoever is learning from you, your children or other dependents, or even the community, will know that, okay, it is very important. Because here lies the case, let's assume you are with somebody and you always want to be good at something, okay, you always want to be good at something, and that person doesn't really care, that person doesn't motivate you, that person, if you talk about, oh, I want to do this, the person be like, it is not necessary. That person becomes a wet blanket to your fire.
No, maybe she doesn't understand, so you just have to sit the person down and then open up things to her.
So why don't you understand? You see, let's not assume that marriage is for kids. Okay, it is for people who have grown to a certain level in life, for them to know what is good and what is bad. So anybody who tells me that he or she is not aware of the importance of getting better at what level they already are, then that person, I'm afraid, may not be ready for marriage. Now let me give you the example of the parable of the wise virgins, okay, in Jesus' own teachings. Now, something interesting happened. When they were all going to meet the groom, they all carried lantern or some source of light. Now, there were some wise ones among them who carried extra oil. It is the extra oil that made a difference. So the point I'm trying to make is, yes, it is good to come to the party that, okay, you understand this, but it is always good to also have something extra, and that something extra is being open-minded about growth. If those ladies who were waiting for the groom didn't go with extra oil, they would have been classified as not wise. So you should be open-minded about growth. So in my example, I'm saying that one of the things I see is that intellectual wavelength. If I want to excel, okay, academically, I shouldn't be wasting my time explaining to my wife that it is important for you to pursue excellence in academia. I'm not saying go and hold a chalk and come and teach in the classroom, but it is important. If some of your mates are doing it, you can do it. And that's my position.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then Ken, let's move to some of the qualities, that is the physical appearance of a lady you would want to.
Okay, so I think that will also differ from one person to the other, okay? But it goes both ways. And in as much as you may desire something, you shouldn't be blinded by that kind of physical appearance, because of course you may have something well packaged, but the content may not be as good as the label on it is projecting. Okay, so you may have somebody, if for instance you are somebody who likes well-endowed women, you may have somebody who is well-endowed, but maybe the content inside, in terms of the intellectual capacity to understand and communicate, to reason, to share ideas, may not be as good. So for instance, when Abraham sent his servant to go and look for a wife for Isaac, Abraham gave some qualities. Okay, so I think some of them were the lady should be from a particular tribe, okay, because back then it was a big deal. The people of God were not supposed to marry from other nations. Good. So Abraham gave those specs to the servants, okay. The servants prayed, and immediately the servant saw Rebecca. The servant knew that, no, this is the person I should go and ask for my master's son. So trust me, whenever you know, or like whenever you meet somebody whom you truly like in terms of the physical appearance, you will know. So like I said, it will be a little bit unfair on my part to say the person should be dark or slim or fat.
Okay.
Or, yeah.
But Ken, for me, I think if you want a fair lady, you should go in for a fair lady, because that is what you want. In as much as you think, oh, she's dark and then she's okay, she has everything I want. As time goes on, a day would come that you feel, no, I wanted a fair lady. And definitely you wanted a fair lady.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. And I've also met people who wanted slim ladies. They married slim ladies, and after a while, they became fat.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, the physical appearance is what attracts you to that person. Okay? Now, when something changes about the appearance, that shouldn't be the license for you to pack out and go. Because invariably, you, the man, too, you are changing.
Mm-hmm.
It is not as if this is what I want, and the woman didn't have a decision. The woman also would have to consider, okay, you're also what I want, so now let's come together. So you should also have that mental toughness to know that, okay, in as much as initially this is what I wanted, she's changing, I'm also changing.
Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
It's different from you want this. I wanted a slim lady.
Mm-hmm.
I got married to her, and then about 2 or 3 years she has given birth and she has putting on weight.
Okay.
A little or more. Mm-hmm. That is different from I wanted a slim lady, but I have gone in for a fat lady.
Mm-hmm.
A day would come, you realize that no, it was a slim lady I wanted.
Okay.
And definitely whenever a slim lady is passing by, you turn and look at her, because that is what you wanted.
So, I mean, honestly, any man who has that mentality of that mindset, I think will have to, or will definitely need a reorientation about life. Okay? Now, listen, there are lots of things we came to this world, okay, that were given to us by default.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we maximize those resources and make good use out of it. Trust me, if you were to ask a lot of people you meet around, if you had a choice to be born in any other country or any other part of the world, you will hear different stories, and I think a lot of people will mention some other places you'll be like, wow, I get my point.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some things we cannot change about ourselves. Okay? Yes, I'm not holding a gun to anybody to say that once you see it like this, you have to stick with it and you don't have to change. But now the point is, people also change along the line. Okay? So for instance, there are some people who may prefer a lady of a certain body type, but they may go in for that person and realize that, okay, this is not something I really wanted. And trust me, in most cases, the real issues are not with that body type, but maybe other things that the person came with. Okay, so for instance, if that person is somebody who cannot cook, and that person is somebody who may have a little bit of some issues when it comes to trying to show reverence or respect to elderly people, then it becomes a problem no matter the body type. So it is a total package. Okay, you cannot isolate these qualities and say that this is what you went in for and now you are changing your mind. There could be other reasons why.
Well, I'm not in support of what you're saying, because for me, I believe if you want something, you should go in for what you want. If I want a dark guy, I would rather go in for a dark guy. I wouldn't say, well, I want a fair guy, so I'm going in for a fair guy.
No. You see, we are not getting my point, okay? That's what I said. So, is it fair to say you want a rich guy?
Mm-hmm.
You go in for that rich guy. Unfortunately, along the line, something happens, the person becomes poor. Are you going to leave that person to go in for another rich guy?
No, Ken, you are not getting my question well.
In that corner. Listen, you are putting yourself in that corner. I'm saying that the physical attraction should be there. Okay? And remember, I've always treaded on the side of caution. I've never made specific mention to any particular quality. That's why I said it would be very unfair of me to say that you should like it fat or slim or tall or short.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that once you know that this person is what you want, you definitely know. But along the line, things may change. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Things may change. The body may change. You've seen fair people who are very fair, and their color started toning down. We've also seen people who are very dark and their color started toning up. So it depends on what you want. But the point is, yes, go in for what you want and make sure you stick with it, even if it changes. Because if, from what you are saying, that you want a dark guy, you go in for a dark guy, and maybe dark, and maybe the person, for some weird reasons, goes to bleach, are you going to leave that person? Well, I don't know.
Love conquers everything.
Love conquers everything. But you should know that whichever way, there's some, the business people say, an opportunity cost decision that needs to be made. You cannot have it all. You definitely have to manage what you have.
Thank you, Mr. Ken.
Thank you very much.
So, Ken, now you've given me some of the important qualities anybody would have to look for before getting married. Let me ask this funny question. Do you think sex also plays a vital role in the qualities?
Well, I think we cannot also underscore the importance of intimacy, okay, or sex. But I think that's a very technical question, and it involves a lot, to be honest. Because if you are to subscribe to what Christians believe, that you should abstain and marry the person before having sex, then it will be very difficult for anyone to know that this is something I like and this is something I don't like. Okay? But like I said, once you make that decision, you need to stick to it. But the most important thing is that conversation can be had. Once you are dating somebody, I think dating is all about trying to fish out information about your preferences, what you like, what you don't like. Okay, so if this is what you like and this is what I like, how do we balance things up? Okay, how do we come to a compromise? Because at the end of the day, some compromise needs to be made. Okay, now I've met quite a number of married people, Okay, the pressures in marriage, taking care of children, the financial responsibility, and other things in life makes sex not too much of an importance to people when they marry, as to a lot of people before they get married. So, like I said, things change along the line. So people shouldn't focus so much about sex, intimacy, because you get into it and you realize that you have bills to pay. You don't even have time to be doing other things. But of course, we cannot underscore the importance of it. It is very important. God has given the license to sexual intimacy to married couples. So definitely, and it is even becomes a crime if you don't want to fulfill that part of your obligation. So definitely it is an important thing to consider as well.
Okay, Ken, before we end the show today, what would be your advice for my viewers?
Alright, so I think we've said a lot in this interview, but the key takeaway is whenever you decide to take that giant step in getting a life partner, a lot of things will come across you, okay? You definitely have to pick one among the lot. So definitely you should look out for the things you like and make sure you stick with it. But whilst looking out for the things you like, go a little bit deep, okay? Don't be focused so much about the aesthetics, okay? Because those ones may fade away, and focus more of the qualitative substances of a human, the character, the mentality of that person, and of course other things that will make a family. Because I think the most important thing about life, especially with a lot of marriage people, is the family and not necessarily things they started out whilst thinking. Thank you.
You're welcome, Ken. Thanks so much for the insight you've given us. My cherished viewers, today has been an interesting day, and what we discussed was what are some of the qualities you consider in choosing a life partner. Please, if you are not married, then I would want you to take your time, relax, pray, and look for better qualities before getting married. And I hope your marriage will be a successful one. My guest for today was Mr. Kenneth Bruni, and it's your host, Adjoa Ejipoma. This is the end of today's discussion.